What if you could change the way that you perceive the world? What if you could change the very fabric of reality itself by changing yourself, by changing your beliefs, by changing your conditioning, the imprints that have been given to you, the genetic programming, the epigenetics? What if you could change everything that exists in your world? As it's been said by many spiritual teachers, you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. Well, what if that really means you need to change in order for your world to change? Welcome to the big island of Hawaii. Potentially the remnants of a lost civilization, a land mass that was once massive, sprawling, that after the Great Flood, which was spoken about in pretty much every religious text and mythology, after that flood happened, most of the land got covered. What's left remains here in the Pacific. Theoretically, Hawaii and maybe some other places. And I will tell you that based on what I have been learning, studying ancient Hawaiian wisdom, ancient Hawaiian wisdom, I would agree with that. I would agree that there is something here that is unexplainable, far more magical than maybe words can even describe. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been studying deeply with my teacher, Kumu Matt James, in the neurolinguistic programming world and behavioral psychology. He's known as Dr. Matt James. Here, when he's teaching ancient Hawaiian wisdom, which he carries 120, I think there are 123 generations now of Hawaiian Huna practitioners, or secret ancient esoteric wisdom, energy, healing, magic, for lack of a better term. As I study with him and the school that he's created, that his father helped create, I see more and more how there is far more to this reality than we have been taught. Now, what I learned here at school is very different from what I learned in public schools, universities, even a lot of online courses. What I learned here is how to empower myself, how to live well, how to become the creator in my own reality, how to be able to create my own reality. And we do that by understanding how the mind works, understanding how the human works, and how energy works, and how everything is ultimately energy. Whether it's this piece of coral, the sun, the sand on the beach, my body, or you, it's all just energy. And by understanding that principle, that everything is energy, by understanding certain laws and truths, irrefutable laws and truths about how the world works, we can start to affect the way our world is. Because ultimately, our reality is simply a reflection of us. There are infinite possibilities, infinite universes, and there are almost an infinite amount of people, it seems, certainly billions, I suppose, but each of us has our own unique perspective of the world. And because each of us has our own unique perspective of the world, and no two people can have the same perspective of the world, there's essentially infinite Earths and infinite universes, infinite possibilities. And by changing ourselves, we can change what is around us, what we perceive, what we experience. Now, there's certain things that we can't change, like I can't change that the sun is setting. That very soon it will become dark, and that darkness will last a certain amount of hours during this season, and then we repeat. And eventually the seasons change, and the years change, and growth and life and death and transformation happens. I can't change that. Now I can change my relationship to it. I can change how I feel about it. You know, if, let's say, the darkness were scary to me, if I had fear about the darkness, well, I can turn on a light, Or I can release whatever fear is inside of me that keeps me reacting so negatively to the darkness. But I can't change the fact that the sun is going to set. But there's certain things that I can change, though. A great example that we use in our school is the idea that there are good and bad people. What does it mean, good and bad? To be good or to be bad is ultimately it's relative. It is a perception, a judgment that comes from the human mind. Nature does not have good and bad. Now, there are light and dark, and there's positive and negative, like the poles on a battery or a magnet. There's day and night. There's up and down. There are all kinds of opposites, dichotomies. The reality that we exist in is a world, a reality of dichotomies. Everything exists on a spectrum of two opposite polar sides. But to think that there's only good and bad people and somewhere in between, well, that's your personal reality. That might have been something that you were taught, that you inherited from your family, that maybe society taught you, that the news taught you, that the government taught you. Who knows? But because we understand that there's a law called the law of cycles and rhythms, which shows that we will continually move through these cycles, day to night, summer to fall, to winter, to spring, over and over and over again, if you believe that there's only good and bad people, then you will meet good people, and then you will inevitably meet bad people, and it will always maintain this balance, because your reality, your consciousness will always follow the laws and maintain those cycles and rhythms. But what if you could change that? What if you could change the way that you perceive the world? What if you could change the very fabric of reality itself by changing yourself, by changing your beliefs, by changing your conditioning, the imprints that have been given to you, the genetic programming, the epigenetics? What if you could change everything that exists in your world? As it's been said by many spiritual teachers, you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. Well, what if that really means you need to change in order for your world to change? That is what I have been understanding, living, practicing, experiencing. Now, just about a week ago, we took a field trip to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. A beautiful park. We do this every session for Huna. I've come for the last year or so, so I've been 3 sessions in a row every 6 months. And this year, the level that I'm in, we learned how to utilize energy, intention, focus, awareness, and energetic spiritual support to manipulate and change the weather for our benefit, for the benefit of many people. We were hiking with a group of, I think we ended up being 3 groups of about 60 people, so almost 200 people on this hike. And we petitioned, asked for, prayed for, whatever word feels better for you, good weather, calm experience, smooth logistics, cool weather with some sun but not too sunny, rain would be okay but not too wet. We wanted it to be, detailed enough but a little more ambiguous so that there was enough play for the universe to surprise us. We asked for sacred signs, we asked for ease and calm. And I got to go and experience that in person, going on that hike, walking across this massive crater, this beautiful volcanic crater that is essentially a gigantic crystal plate that is connected to the center of the earth through this volcanic channel. And while we were walking over the volcanic plate, there was a perfect hole in the sky. There was no rain on us. The sun was coming in and out, so it was not too hot and not too cold. Because frankly, the weather at the volcano is quite unpredictable. It's at 3,000 or 4,000 feet elevation. The island of Hawaii itself has like 10 out of 14 of the climate zones that exist on this planet. It is very unpredictable weather. And by asking for that and knowing that however I am inside is going to be reflected in the weather, that was going to show up. And so the next day, our teacher, Kumu Matt, came to us and said, okay, it's time for us to talk about the weather. Now, he gave us a step-by-step description of everything that he saw, all the cloud formations, how he was feeling in his body and his mind, what he was noticing in the people in his group, in his logistics team, all the aspects of everything that was happening. And he could read exactly what was happening in our group as we sat around, a group of 18 people, and made this specific petition for good weather. And he read us like a book, even to the point where he would call out signs about the way a cloud was or when rain happened as we left the park. And then, even though it seemed like there was no clear correlation to anything that we experienced as a group, somebody would raise their hand and say, that was me. It started raining really hard once we left the park. And thankfully it happened after we left, so we weren't drenched and soaked. And a woman said, oh, I think that was me, because we wrapped up the process. We stood in a circle, arms around each other, and we said these phrases in Hawaiian that we use to close every class. And she said, I was feeling so emotional that I was holding back tears. And she said, I just didn't feel like it was the right time. I didn't want to make anyone feel awkward. And he said, that was it. And she goes, it was because I was crying. And he said, no, it's not because you were crying. It's because you made it wrong that you were crying at that time. That's why that rain came. That was actually inconvenient to some of us as we were leaving, but not dangerous, not harmful, not uncomfortable, but a little bit inconvenient. You see, everything that we were, who we were, our emotions, our beliefs, our doubts, our fears, our anxieties, all of these things were reflected in our reality because we chose to engage in a process where we can control, manipulate, or request the manipulation of our environment. But it always is a reflection of us. Now, that's a very specific, magical, and very purposeful, intentional experience. And this happens all the time. The people that you meet are reflections of you. The people that you're attracted to are reflecting something inside of you. They're reflecting expectations, they're reflecting trauma, emotional baggage, limiting beliefs, wounds, whatever it might be. And by understanding this, by understanding how the world works through ancient wisdom, through esoteric, occult, or hidden knowledge, the things that we don't get taught in school, the things that are more aligned with quantum physics than Newtonian physics, where everything is connected, where consciousness has an effect, where the observer has an effect on reality. These things that science is now coming to prove and also still can't quite prove because reality is more magical than we could possibly understand. Things are weirder than you think. But when you start to open up to it and experiment with proper teaching and guidance and a willingness to just get out there and do it, your reality will change. This is the premise of the work that I do. I do it first in my life, changing myself so that I can change my experience. Like right now, I'm sitting on this beautiful beach in Kona. 3 years ago, I was guided intuitively to go to Kona, and I didn't because I was afraid. I was fearful of the money it would cost, how expensive rentals and car rentals would be. I didn't know if I was going to have a purpose for going, and here I am, and I've gone to Hawaii 3 times in the last year, and every time has been more magical than the last. And no, I don't always know exactly how I'm going to pay for every little bit of it, and yet it always works out because I have learned how to relax, how to surrender, how to trust myself, how to trust my intuition, how to trust that the universe has got my back, and that if I listen and continue to polish up my inner space, I will continue to get better, and my reality will continue to reflect what I'm doing inside. So the question for you is, if you could change anything in your reality, in your life, in the universe that you live in, what would you change? And the follow-up question for that is, what does that mean that you need to change about yourself? Because as within, so without. Ancient Hermetic principle, ancient wisdom taught by pretty much every old society, understood by modern societies, but not everybody in them, only those that are in power. As above, so below, as within, so without. Everything inside is the same as outside. Everything in the macro is the same as in the micro. So if you want your world to change, it's time to change yourself. And I'm curious, if you've ever had an experience where you've been able to manipulate your reality, change things somehow by changing your thoughts, your emotions, or the way you perceive reality, share that comment below. I'd love to learn a little bit more because reality is far more interesting than you've been taught. If you want to learn more, subscribe, like this video, and share it with somebody who you think would benefit from understanding that you don't have to be stuck and trapped in the world and the life that you have created for yourself. You can always change at any moment, and it can be faster than you expect. My name is Christopher Armstrong. I'm here to help you transform your life, shift your mindset, and achieve new heights in human potential. If you're ready for more, comment below, follow the instructions in the video description.